Former athletes, are you not making as much as you want in your current career? I'll show you how I've been able to consistently make $30K per month in real estate working part-time. For context, I was working in middle management with little career upside and flexibility and was able to flip that around and consistently make $30K per month in under 12 months. And I can help you do the same.
If you want to clear the cobwebs of 24 out and get your mindset right for 25, this is the episode for you. Joel tactically breaks down how to structure your mindset, structure your schedule to bring true freedom and flexibility in your business and allow you to focus on what matters the most. So set your speed to 1.25 or 1.5 and let's get tactical. All right, welcome everybody to today's episode. We have Joel Dick from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and we're going to be talking about mindset. It's going to be coming from the perspective of a newer agent, and Joel will introduce himself and let you know how long he's been in the business, but under 2 years, and has achieved icon status in eXp Realty. And for those of you listening that don't know what that is, it's basically the top 1% of producers across the company. I think there's close to 90,000 agents. My math might be off a little bit, but I think less than 2,000 agents out of the 90 hit icon. So we're definitely in for, some good information today from an agent that knows what he's doing. And even though it's coming from the perspective of a new agent, I think that as we talk about mindset today, heading into 2025, I think this will be applicable to everybody. So Joel, welcome to the show.
Yeah, Scott, thanks a lot for having me. It's good to be here.
So just give us a brief intro. You've, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but under 2 years in the business. And before this, you were a teacher, you were a coach, you were a mentor. And I think that's, kind of what we're going to get into today as far as mindset. So give us a little bit of an intro as to how long you've been doing it and where you've come from.
For sure. So I was licensed, it would have been in February of 2023. So I guess we're coming up on 2 years. But didn't really get into the business full time until that spring. And I guess from my perspective, I didn't really have any clients, or kind of missed that full spring opportunity there because I was still working my other job. So if we back up a little bit, I from Alberta originally, came to Saskatchewan, played volleyball here, and went through kinesiology education, and ultimately did a master's in coaching program through UBC, which allowed me lots of opportunities. Then I worked in sport and sport management, in athlete and coach development. So that's kind of what I did for the past 7 or 8 years. That kind of led me into my real estate career, and we'll get into it. But I really feel like it has helped me be successful early on in my career.
Good. And so as a new agent, somebody explained it to me one time, like, you're drinking through a fire hose. Everything is coming at you in real time, real quickly. And like you said, you have to start from zero, no clients, and build some sort of business. And I can imagine, and I even think back to when I was a newer agent, how little things, especially in the beginning, can really take you off the rails, or beat you down and keep you down for weeks or months until you get the next deal or the next client. So sort of a high level, from your experience as a coach, a mentor, your master's program, what do you do to get and keep your mindset right, to keep you able to focus even on the business and building the business?
Yeah, I guess if we look at it from a high level, something that I think really helps me stay focused is that I'm very outcome driven, but I'm trying to be 100% process focused. And I think this goes back to my sporting days, where the outcome, I think even more so in sport, remains a bit outside of your control, in that the quality of the opponent is outside of your control. You can't control that. You can control what you do day in and day out, and ultimately that will give you the best chance at the outcome that you want. And I was encouraged, I think, when I got into business, that I said, hey, this seems like it's somewhat in my control. It just took me, and I think it takes all new agents, a while to figure out, okay, what are these things that I need to do day in and day out that allow me the outcome I want. But I think the mindset around it already kind of existed, in that I trusted that process. I trusted that if I go in and I do X, Y, and Z, and I'll try and get into a little bit of that in a minute, it's going to lead to the outcome that I want. But to your point, yeah, it was easy to kind of get distracted, but I think that mindset on the process, but also just kind of an entrepreneurial mindset that allowed me, I think, to see the failures very much as learning opportunities. As when you're in sport or business for me was the first time, but definitely sport, we fail a lot. And the ability to learn from those failures is quite significant. So that resilience kind of mindset was built through those activities that allowed me to kind of, I guess, press on.
Yeah, those are actually, you hit some really, really great nuggets there. I just heard a quote from Roger Nadal, the pro tennis player. And I think he said that he's won 70% of his matches, but then he said, how many of my points do you think that I've won over, a 17-year career? And he said he won like 52% of his points. So like he won a lot, but he also lost 48% of his points, and he's still going to go down as one of the greatest, if not the greatest tennis player ever. So I think that's a great point where you don't fail, you learn. Now, exactly. If you fail over and over again, you're obviously not learning. And then the other point that I think, really stuck out to me is the sort of the systems and the processes and the tasks to keep you focused. I mean, there's another great quote that says, the harder I work, the luckier I get. And, just this notion around that, hey, if you're putting in the work and putting in the reps, good things, sort of happen to you. So in that sort of, vein, as you said, okay, I knew that if I just trusted a process and move forward with the tasks that I needed to do, what do you need to tell yourself, or what does an agent need to sort of tell themselves behind the scene to, I don't know if it's to pump themselves up or just to keep them waking up every day motivated to move forward, when maybe you don't see a result on the horizon?
For sure. It took me a little while to figure this out, or perhaps it was a mentor, but I think everyone needs to have, you need to have marketing buckets or things that are significant to drive your business forward. Because in our business, if you have the shiny object syndrome and everything that comes across your desk, you try and chase around, you're not going to find much success. But if you find the things that can really drive your business forward and you can spend some time there, for example, for me, and I would suggest this should be for everyone, sphere of influence needs to be one of those marketing buckets. Where you live, for me, it's a big part of the volleyball community is huge. So you need to find ways to interact with and have relationship and have influence with those people. So sphere of influence, needs to be one of those marketing buckets. Beyond that, if you door knock, open houses, like all of these other things could be seen as a bucket. Then within those buckets, you need to look at what are the tangible activities that I can do, let's say day in and out, or at least week in and out, that have a controllable number that I know if I hit those number, for example, number of conversations with your sphere, number of open houses on a weekend, whatever it is, that if I hit that number, I can trust that things are going to work out. Now, is it a perfect formula? No. But for me, it's really helped my mindset in knowing that I've done what I can control, and it's gonna build. I don't know when, I don't know exactly how it's gonna play out. And then from there, if I don't like how things are working out, well, I up my controllables. Well, it's like, okay, well, I don't like the numbers that are coming in this spring. Okay, well, obviously I need to do more of conversations in my sphere of influence, or I need to enhance my skills. Maybe I need to role play more with a mentor agent with those conversations so that I can convert at a higher percentage. But it becomes very controllable. And I think that's what a lot of people miss is we're constantly looking for our next thing and we get scattered, and we lose that process that will lead to results if we trust it and refine it.
And that's so good. That's so good. What I was thinking about when you were saying all that was sort of stability. Like when people are stable in their lives, they have this opportunity to move forward. When there's instability, they're scattered, they're confused, they're running around like a chicken with their head cut off, for lack of better words. And so if I understand correctly, what you're saying is that And there's an old school coach, Mike Ferry. Most people will have heard the name. He talks about predictable and duplicatable business. And I think that's what you're hitting on, is saying that, if I pick a bucket, and I totally agree with the bucket system. I've said this for years, like, if your goal is to do 50 deals a year, well, you only need to get 10 in 5 different buckets to hit your goal. You don't need to necessarily do 50 deals. You just need to do 10 sphere of influence. And as you said, 10, convert 10 from an open house and convert 10 from door knocking. And so what you're saying is that if you focus on the tasks and the controllables that you can, you control how many phone calls you make, you control how many social media posts you make, you control how many doors you knock, how many open houses you do, that then from a mindset perspective allows you to sort of be calm, be focused, and know that if I continue to hit my controllables, that things statistically should work out.
Definitely. And like I said, I haven't been in the industry near as long as you, so I continue to look back and reflect and learn from those experiences, as I know you do every year. Another thing that, in terms of mindset, that I found very helpful, and you hear lots of people talk about this, is you got to take care of yourself outside of the industry in a way that leads to wellness and confidence. It's just very important. And it might sound fluffy, but it's not. It's very much the opposite. So you need a morning routine. You have to have something. And I would recommend that you do something in the morning that is difficult, right? For some people that might be working out, for some people that might be having a cold plunge or a cold shower, but you do something difficult that kind of puts you in a good mindset to take on the day. And whatever it is, those calls that you do after, whether they're successful or not, are going to seem quite easy. And I suggest that these controllable things, lots of agents will say, well, in the morning, I do prospecting, and they just put their calendar there, prospecting. But I would recommend that people build out their calendar a little bit more, specifically new agents, where you actually have, well, what are you going to do? Okay, I'm going to have 5 sphere of influence conversations. I'm going to send 3 texts. I'm going to add, a piece of educational content to my story on social, whatever that looks like. It's going to be very measurable. So at the end of that morning, you can look back and say, okay, I did my things. And it doesn't mean you just sit back and relax the rest of the afternoon, but it allows you time to book in those meetings that are going to come in because of your controllables. It allows you to prioritize and spend time, for me, with my family or with your spouse or dog or whatever you like to do. You have a little bit more flexibility, because in this industry or in business, the blessing and the curse is the freedom or flexibility that you can have, that can be scary if you don't set up your own structure in the day.
Yeah, again, great points. There's a book that I recommend people get. It's called Eat That Frog. And basically the whole premise of the book is to do your hardest tasks first. If, whether that, like you said, working out or something to sort of get your juices flowing. But if you know that making your follow-up calls first thing in the morning is the hardest thing that you have to do that day, eat that frog, get it done with, and everything after that becomes, so much easier. And I also like the point that you made about, breaking down your tasks, not just a general prospecting, but hey, these are the 5 things that I need to get done. And it's interesting, and it's something that even I still struggle with, and I have a hard time getting my head wrapped around, is that this idea that you actually get more freedom from somewhat of a structured schedule than you do by just winging it all day. Because when you wing it, you're constantly feeling like there's tasks undone, things I still need to do, things I need to get to. Oh, I'll get to it tomorrow. And then tomorrow turns into a week and things start to stack up and it gets stressful. But when you have a schedule and you have a task list and you're able to check that off and be like, hey, I did, it's noon, I've done what I needed to do today. I now have some freedom in the afternoon to do other things. And I think that's super powerful. And that's an absolutely great point. So let me ask you this, from your background in coaching and mentorship, if somebody is starting 2025 and they're like, I kind of got some ideas, I kind of got some plans, I don't know that I'm fully there. I don't know that I'm necessarily ready. I'm stressed about it. I know that deep down, I want to do better, be better, push more, have a better year, but I just don't know where to start. From sort of a mindset position, if an athlete or a coach came to you in a similar situation, what would be sort of the first step for them to sort of get the cobwebs cleared out and get them focused for this next year?
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on it there. There's two things that I would recommend. The first one, and we're already having a conversation around it, is I would tell them you gotta reset your calendar. You gotta I think, and I don't want to get us off topic here a little bit, but I think it's very easy, for whatever reason, us as humans, it's very easy for us to be good at being accountable to others, but being very poorly accountable to ourselves. So if you find yourself doing that, your calendar starts to mean nothing, right? It starts to mean nothing. You have stuff in there, you don't do them, you're fine with it. It's kind of whatever. You need to reset your calendar, you need to do it, and you need to live by it, not in a way that you can never adjust it, but your calendar needs to mean something. So even as simple as, well, when people call me, usually the house isn't on fire, right? If someone needs to sell their house, they need to have a buyer's consult, whatever it is. I look in my calendar and I give options, but I make it work and I control my schedule, right? So make sure that's kind of a big one when you're talking to agents, make sure you control your schedule. So reset it and plug things in there. We talked about the importance of a miracle morning or whatever you want to call it, to make sure those items are done. The other thing I would say is get a mentor, get a coach, get someone that allows you to develop this accountability to yourself, that if you don't feel like you naturally have this type of mindset, it can be developed through things that you read and practices. But ultimately, if you have a coach, not just technically helping you, but also in these mindset areas, it can be extremely powerful. So I can't just emphasize the importance enough of getting a mentor. And if you're looking for a mentor, make sure it's someone who also values coaching and mentorship. I would never get coached by someone who doesn't have a coach or have a mentor, because it shows me that they don't value the significance of that. So reset your calendar and get a mentor. Those would be the two things that I'd recommend right away.
Cool. I want to ask you before we wrap up a little bit more about that mentorship piece, but just to sort of piggyback on what you were saying too, and going back to like the buckets and the calendar. I know for myself, I have a calendar as far as, hey, these are things that I need to accomplish this week. But I personally work better off of a checklist. I'm a checklist guy versus a calendar guy. So I know, like you said, hey, I got my 5 calls I need to make. I got my 3 doors I need to knock. I need to set these 2 appointments, and I need to follow up with my past clients, or whatever that looks like. And for me to write that out and say, okay, this is what I have to accomplish this morning before I do anything else. And I can start to check, as I start to, nothing gives me more joy to start to see lines getting crossed off. Oh, another one. And I think that starts to build confidence, and it starts to build momentum. And once you get some confidence and some momentum behind you, it's funny how things just like business just starts to kind of grow. I mean, you can get into a rut and you can, oh, woe is me. And my mindset's off and I'm just not doing anything. But if you, exactly like you said, if you'll set a schedule, set some tasks, start chipping away at them day after day, you'd be surprised at how quickly your business starts to advance. And so I think, I think those are great points. And so let me just ask you a little bit about sort of the mentorship and the coaching piece. Like, I know that you are building, slowly building, your team, kind of your people around you. I think that it's definitely changed over the last several years, but there's sort of this hesitancy of newer agents to maybe make a change, make a switch to a different team, or, find that mentor and plug in underneath of them. But I think that's changing. And so what would you say to, and I think maybe you've already covered it, but just to wrap it up, what would you say to those agents out there that maybe are struggling, but maybe are, confused about, joining another team or joining another, brokerage or something like that? What would you say to them to kind of get them off that fence and make that change in their business?
Yeah, I think it's important for whoever you are. I think a lot of people, again, it becomes fear-based. We struggle to take action because of fear, whatever that is. And I think there's a fear of perhaps a misalignment. So I would encourage, just like you would anything when you're exploring options, if you're looking at a mentor and coach, make sure that you look into what they're about. What do they value? How do they run their business? How do they interact with others? And does that align with kind of who you are? And perhaps it's going for coffee, having a phone conversation, whatever. And if it is, well, then it might make sense, because I will say that, not every mentor or coach is going to be able to best support every new agent. I think people have different ways of doing things, and not one is right and one is wrong, but one might be able to better serve you, based on who you are, what you value, and what you want your marketing buckets to be, and ultimately what your goals are. Because, even for example, if an agent came to me and I went through kind of how I did things, and they said, well, that's not going to work, I'm not going to do that, I would be hesitant to try and keep them accountable if they don't want that, right? So ultimately, you need to want it, and then you need to find someone who aligns with you. So that's not the answer, but I think that's a little bit of context to that.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think I know that when I started in real estate, I was on a team. I had some mentors that I was working with, and that first 5 or 6 years probably brought me 20 years of experience, just right there. And so I always say this: real estate and maybe entrepreneurship in general, it's a fairly lonely business. You're in your home office most of the time. You're grinding away. Yeah, you got some buddies in the business, but I think that an agent that's for sure under 5 years, if not under 10, and they're not where they're at, it's not a bad idea to explore what other options you have. And before we sort of wrap up, and I'm going to ask you to give us one sort of final piece of tactical advice, if somebody does have questions about your business, how you run it, where can people find you online, Joel?
Yeah, so people can find, I guess, online, everything's under JD Real Estate Group. Kind of developed, like you said, it got a bit of a partner now, and Derek Epp is his name. So all of our handles would be under JD Real Estate Group, including website. And should be easy to track down. Otherwise, let me know and I got to do something better, but should be able to find me there.
They'll find you JD Real Estate Group, or even just searching Joel Dick, and you can send him a DM or get into conversation with him that way. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time. I think it's a great episode. I think that people need to potentially listen to this twice, because there are far more nuggets in here than, to be honest, I was expecting. It even, I think, motivated me a little bit listening to this, and I'll definitely go through it again. And before I let you go, Joel, what would be maybe one final tactical and practical piece of advice that you would give, whether it's a new agent, whether it's an experienced agent, just sort of an encouragement for them, as they step into 2025?
Yeah, I thought about this, and I'm going to keep it in line with our conversation here in terms of mindset and accountability and kind of keeping things moving forward. In order to help your accountability and goal setting, whether they be process or outcome based, I would encourage people as we head into 2025 to have an accountability partner. And then further to that, to have a reward, or I'm always hesitant to say punishment. And it can be set up weekly and yearly. So I would say weekly to your process goals. So if you both reach your process goals, maybe go for lunch and you both buy, you buy your own lunch. But maybe, if you don't reach your process goal, maybe you're buying them lunch, right? So little things that really help. I don't know about you, Scott, but certainly if I had to buy you lunch, if I didn't reach my goals that week, I'd be getting them done, right? So these little things I feel like are very helpful. And then maybe it's something bigger for your yearly goal. And then if you get your things done, I know for me, I really enjoy golf, specifically in the summer months. So if I get my stuff done for the week and I have nothing booked Friday afternoon, I'm going to hit the golf course and I'm feeling great about it. So these little rewards, or I'll call them incentives or maybe punishments, because we're driven by things we want and things we want to avoid. So if you can incorporate those things into your week and year and have someone in your ear, for example, well, I've got Derek, right? We've got these accountability structures. Some people need to make them, some are a little more natural. I think that'll really, if you're a competitive person like me, that's really going to drive your business forward and keep you on track.
Yeah, and I love that. I'll do just about anything for a free meal. So let me just throw it out there. If somebody needs an accountability partner local and you want to do that lunch deal, hit me up. Hit me up or hit Joel up because, I'll do anything for a free meal. Man, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I think today's conversation was exactly what agents need to hear as we head into Q1 of 2025. And I appreciate the time you made for me. If you're listening to this, check out JD Real Estate Group, check out Joel Dick online. They post great content. Joel, thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, Scott.